All right, welcome everyone to the RSP Film Room. And today, my special guest, one of my favorite people, just ever. One of my favorite
Ha.
people in football space as well is one Sigmund Bloom, and Sigmund Bloom is certainly a guest here that we've had a lot of great history doing these shows together. And you know him from On the Couch, you know him at Football Guys, you know the work that he used to do at the Bleacher Report as a draft analyst, and also with Draft Guys back in the day. If you have done that, so my buddy Sigmund, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's always good for us to spend time together, and it's always fun when we get together to talk football because you never know where we're going to go with it. It could really end up absolutely anywhere, truly anywhere. You really, it's. I think for both of us, our readers, listeners have seen that it's a trip through the funhouse that is our mind with football as the handshake, and what I think is really cool about the player we're going to talk about today that hasn't been talked about nearly enough who are these key players that have turned franchises around? Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson. And we were talking to death the top four quarterbacks, or maybe even putting the poop stamp. That's, by the way, the poop stamp is something I got from the love of my life, Kate. We've been watching some prospects together, and she came up with that term. Just poop. The poop stamp on Davis Webb is a first round pick. But we're not talking about that player that might, we need to do further examination, that might be the Wilson or Prescott that now with this injury and these character questions, teams might overlook. And as it's Chad Kelly, as he's pushed down the board, the risk, the price, it becomes smaller and smaller. But then we have to ask, how big is the possible reward?
Exactly. And that's the thing that's great about him because you got to understand that, I just don't think that NFL teams enough, don't have enough accountability for how they screw up quarterback play.
Right.
They keep pointing the finger at the college game, at the spread offenses, at the players not being quite prepared. And the real answer to me seems to be you keep looking at these players who continue to come out of the college game, sit for a year or two or three, and continue to be some of the best quarterbacks in the game with noted exceptions. But even a guy like Kirk Cousins, who really got developed by accident. I mean, it
Yeah.
was all about Robert Griffin, and then we're like, well, Griffin got hurt, so let's put Cousins in and let him play a little bit. Oh, he played pretty well. Oh, he played horribly. Let's put him on the bench, let him sit for a while. And he kept coming in and out of the lineup. They had Colt McCoy in there for a little while ahead of him, and next thing you know, Kirk Cousins is at least getting a franchise tag, and being a player that people look to and say he's a potential future guy for us. And I think a guy like Chad Kelly, what makes this great for him is that it's kind of an it's kind of a blessing in disguise because here's a guy who got in fights with the coaching staff at Clemson when he came aboard. He basically told Cole Stout, a former backup quarterback, basically that he was going to take his job and he really wasn't worth anything. I mean, this was him as a freshman entering heading before he even got into school. He was basically talking trash to the backup quarterback, saying he was going to take this guy out, which is a no-no. But at the same time, you see the competitive spirit this guy has, and he got in fights, and you see all of these different things with getting in fights with the coaching staff about him being removed from games, and he ended up basically got into it so bad that he got kicked off the team, and it was an immaturity issue. And then you have all these injuries on top of it. Gotten fight outside of a club. So these are things that you talk to guys, and NFL guys say, "Oh, he's got a ton of baggage, and it's really bad." But you start to wonder because I think about other players that they don't say are so bad, but we don't, aren't so bad in comparison to what they've done. But at the same time, give him a year or two to sit where he's going to have to show that he's mature and that he's like emotionally mature enough to be on a football team, especially with time on his hands. And if he proves that he can stay out of trouble, and on top of that, his body needs to heal. And if
Yeah.
his body heals and he gets to spend a year totally reconditioning, not getting beat up, still, his legs better, his shoulder better, the wrist and the hernia surgery, which is what I hear was the most important thing, is like give him a full year to recondition that so there's not a chance for recurrence. You're about to see a player that we're going to watch who is very intuitive about his game and is immediate about translating what he sees, as you would say, a fast processor.
Yeah, well, and I think that one of the things we're seeing here, and I keep quoting the Matt Waldman theory of quarterback development or the Matt Waldman school of thought on this, is because of his injury, because of his character questions that will drop him maybe to the third day of the draft. Uh, I think that just based on what we've seen Kelly do in the SEC, he's a second round quarterback prospect on that alone. And then you start adding in all these other variables. But it sets up an almost ideal script where, like you said, he has to wait, he has to be humbled, he has to earn what he gets, and he has to show a team that he is going to be part of the program. And I think that could happen this year with Deshaun Kaiser if he falls to the late first. And maybe teams might by accident be patient. But immediately off the top of my head, as we talk about Chad Kelly, Matt, or Kaiser, or any of these teams, you think about all of these teams that have a quarterback in their mid 30s that they have to start looking to the future. Pittsburgh, Giants, San Diego, New England's probably going to keep Garoppolo, but they would fit in there. New Orleans, and then you think about teams that have a quarterback. It's like the milk in the refrigerator that you know is going to go bad tomorrow, and you need to go to the store, like Blake Bortles, right? Like, oh, we have to do some shopping. Like maybe we can use that milk today, but I'm not sure if it's going to be good tomorrow. Or even Kirk Cousins because of the way that the relationship, speaking of milk and souring, so there's a lot of teams that should be looking at this quarterback class thinking we don't have to get anything out of this player this year, which is an ideal situation for Kelly.
Yeah, and everybody, I could almost see the average fan looking at Kelly and going, well, he's Jim Kelly's nephew. Of course, Bill Polian said he's the best quarterback in the past 2 years. It's a little bit of a favor for Jim Kelly that he would say that. But I don't agree with that. I actually believe that he's right, that he is probably the most talented quarterback in the past couple of years, or at least up there. And I've talked to a couple scouts who've said the same thing, like from the level of how his play is, they they believe the same thing. It's just the off field and the injuries. So we're going to start with his first game. The first game we're going to watch is him against Alabama in 2015. And if you're new to the RSP Film Room, we've been doing a little bit of a new school approach where we've been doing some homework. But this is fitting because I think with Bloom and I, we're going to just kind of roll through it, watch the game play by play, and just talk about what we see from the standpoint of football to quarterbacking and general technique, as well as just higher conceptual ideas about the game and playing the position. So I'm going to pull up the screen, make sure that everybody can see what we're going to be looking at here. And you good to go, Bloom?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So here we go. I've got this. Let's see. Yep. We're going to start. We're going to keep this playing on a slow-mo track. And we're all right. First play. Gonna have a bat down right here. So let's watch. See if there's anything here that we can look at. I mean, you see the look off on the screen. It's just your basic screen, but it's a good play by the defensive end here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So moving forward.
And just within accuracy within accuracy, putting that ball on the outside, and even with the defensive end in his face, didn't really alter the trajectory too much. He put it where he needed to because if you leave that one inside, that can be a pick six, 80 yards the other way.
Absolutely, it's very, very nice location there. He doesn't panic at all, and it's his check down. He looks to his first man, Treadwell. It looks like maybe upfield.
Right.
And the placement here could have been better. You kind of have a two-man look.
Right. Well, it looks like he tries to throw this one more with his arm than his whole body.
Yeah. And instead of getting it over the outside shoulder, he forces the turn inside. And while it should have been caught, he puts him in harm's way. And
well, in the 3rd and 9, that wasn't going to get the first down anyway.
No, exactly. And you do have a look here that looks like it might have been open on on the front side. But again, this is one of those things where you probably have to choose which side you're going to start with first. So, when he looks at this particular play, he's playing this two-man game down below, and once he sees that the pressure's coming up on that front side.
Right. You live to fight another day. You're out on the road, first drive. You're looking for the upset. You just got obviously a return or a turnover, so you take your 3 points and you're happy with it. It seems like that whole series, he just wanted to make sure that he didn't turn the ball over.
Right. Nice look off downfield.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's like an NFL. That's an NFL window right there because there's not that. I'd imagine that the window closes a little bit after he throws the ball, but you can see that that ball gets there very quickly.
Yeah. And the
I mean,
timing's great because he's got this trailing linebacker here, and he's patient enough on this play. To me, one of his greatest strengths is knowing when to be patient and go, okay, it can't come out right now because I see that this man is covered. So I'm going to have to buy a little bit of time and wait. But as soon as I need to, I'm going to get rid of this ball with enough anticipation that even this defender has no chance on the ball.
yeah, and his body looks really quiet and calm in the pocket. There's a lot of quarterback talk about mechanics, and I think mechanics just are a reflection of the quarterback's mental approach and then sometimes emotional approach to the game. And like you said, he handles giving that just extra half beat very easily.
Yeah, and I think you state that very well. I mean, to me, the feet are connected to the eyes for at least wide receiver, tight end, and running back, and they are, I think, also for quarterback. You can kind of see what neuroses they have or don't have with how calm their feet are. I mean, could have been a little better, but we're
Yeah.
nitpicking.
Yeah.
It's a drop.
Wow.
Yeah, very easy. Just very thoughtful
Just
play.
calm. What
Yeah,
you like there is that the movement isn't exaggerated or trying too much to. I mean, there's no emotion in that reaction.
no,
He senses it and he wheels out of that in perfect throwing position. I'm always looking for when quarterbacks are outside of the pocket or outside of the classic drop. Are they keeping the ball in a position where they're going to be able to throw it?
yeah,
And
exactly. And like when you see this play, there is no padding of the feet as soon as he sees that pressure.
no,
Ryan Tannehill, while I like some of the things that he did at A&M, when you watch him at Miami,
well, and that should have been a blindside sack.
yeah,
I mean, that should have been the kind of sack where the ball pops out as you see the quarterback take the jolt.
yeah, and it's just like
Yeah.
one little pivot. He kind of presses down on that front foot and then pivots off of it to turn. Very, very smooth and composed.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. I mean, when we talk about pocket presence. Pocket presence is such a nebulous term. But to me, that's pocket presence. I mean,
Exactly.
it's just perceiving things and instantly having reactions that are valid reactions that leave you in a position to still make a play.
Yeah, and I mean, quarterbacks are taught in theory based on where the pressure location is, what type of escape route they should have. There are certain type of gaps where they should escape to, and it's kind of like vision for a running back. It doesn't always work out as planned, but you should know the theory and you should be able to process it quickly
Really,
and
I mean,
maturely.
I still don't know how he saw that.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at it one more time here, what we've got. I mean,
There's a point where you can freeze it, and he's reading that bottom side of the field, and the rusher is unobstructed. Like right there,
yeah,
that should be a sack, if not a sack fumble.
yeah, yeah. So what that tells you is he either heard one of his linemen say something, which is a possibility that maybe
Right.
would have called as like he got past me or something, or he just saw that oncoming number 30 or he saw this covered well enough and he's like, it's 2nd and 10, and what are my routes up front? My routes up front are number 3 on a short hitch that's going to go for 0. and number 17 who's cutting across the field. But I don't think that's it. It's the pressure. He's got to have
Yeah.
felt the pressure there. So yeah,
And these are the kinds of things, one of the difficulty of evaluating college quarterbacks is you how often in a game do you see them have to face the kind of thing they're going to face on a Sunday? And this is exactly the kind of thing you have to deal with on a Sunday.
yeah. And this is also an aspect of intuitive play because step by step, how do you describe really? I was sitting here just a second ago trying to describe what he did, why he did it, and the you have to skip several steps because there's not
Right.
one explainable thing, and that's about intuitive quarterbacking. When he screws that, if you screw it up as an intuitive quarterback, you look dumb
Yeah.
because there's not those steps that you can say, look, we went through a process. But that was a very smart intuitive play. Got another got another knockdown there. Let's see what we got going on here. Two knockdowns.
Right. That's three total.
Yeah.
So,
Now,
and that could definitely be something that the defense. I mean, this is Alabama's defense. The defense comes in prepared for.
yeah. And we can look at the release and we'd examine that and go, is it high enough? I mean, certainly the play action was reasonably nice in terms of what he did with his hands. He could probably sell it a little bit more. Could the release be a little higher? Yeah. Could be a little higher, but
Yeah,
it's
and the trajectory of his ball is also not. It's also kind of flat, but you can often that can be mitigated with velocity.
yeah. And it's well scouted. I mean, they probably scout, okay, this set, they'll look at this set and go, this is a set where we often see him run from run a read option play or a play action and quick throw on the slant. And they might have read that and just said, okay, let's go. Because the, you already have the secondary player working
Right.
upfield here. So, all right, moving forward.
Yeah, it actually looks like that the defender that gets his hands on the ball was waiting and reading Kelly to time his jump to obstruct the throwing lane. Was
Yeah,
not was just pushed upfield and then stopped and then got himself ready.
nothing great here. Alabama's obviously sitting on these short slants and check down routes.
Right. Well, it really does appear that he there's some because he get perfect.
Yeah, and this is slow motion, but consider
Right.
this. One is, I mean, he does a pretty good job of staying intact, looking at this two-man route to see if it breaks open, and once it doesn't, he decides he's going to run, and he feels a little bit of the pressure and ducks down.
Right.
But look at him outrun number 10.
Yeah.
That's Reuben Foster.
Right. Right. A first round pick in this year's draft.
Yeah, this guy is a lot quicker than many people realize.
Is this the most athletic group of quarterbacks we've seen? It
I
feels like this. I don't. Is there one guy who's like an unathletic slug in the pocket?
I'm kind of a I'm kind of a I don't think there is. I mean, this all around. I think you're right. There's from the top guys, though. I think Davis Webb isn't all that
Well, sure. But
wonderful.
that's why they like him.
Yeah, but I mean, certainly Andrew. When we had Andrew Luck, Tannehill, Russell Wilson, and Griffin, that
That's a
that
big one.
that
That's
trumps
a big
these
one.
guys. But
Yeah, it's on the top of the class. You're
these
right.
guys are no slouches. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
that's true.
All right, so again, the small details of the play action. You see a second different way of doing it. So I like the fact that he has kind of a variety of that. And then just from the arm standpoint, you're looking at him throw a ball from about the 28. And it's, I mean, just long. And I think he puts plenty of air on the ball and gets it down, but the receiver, it's maybe a half step long. So that tells you, let's see if I look at this, I'd go, does the receiver judge this well? He kind of looks like he misjudged and I wouldn't even say it's the receiver. It's a half step long and a half step wide. This looks like either it was just well covered or that he and number one, Treadwell, weren't on the same page because he's either throwing to this receiver breaking to the outside, which I kind of find odd because it's well covered, and it would either be that he was anticipating that break or he was expecting one to come back here, or he's just throwing it away. Third and
Yeah, well,
10.
on third, and you can see a pattern that he's coming into this game conservative, which is called for.
Yeah. Okay, so quick, easy decision. Okay, so nice little look off early. And this is where he gets criticism, is that he doesn't always throw the fade well, and it kind of gets,
Yeah,
it's the placement isn't always there.
right.
But I would say I've
Because
seen,
they got a pass interference on it.
yeah,
Well, he throws again with the trajectory of his ball. Um, although this one, it seems like he's giving the receiver a chance to play. Actually, I mean, that actually, I mean, it's like slightly underthrown. But I think the important thing on a fade is you want to give the receiver a trajectory so that he can adjust to the ball. It doesn't a fade doesn't have to be like well, I mean, like a very short fade should be pretty accurate. But a longer fade like that, you just want to allow your receiver the chance to adjust to his route and leap timing to the incoming ball. And I think that one did the job. Obviously, if it
yeah.
left, it could because it left the defensive back in a position where all he could do is commit pass interference, and it would have been a touchdown without the interference.
And I agree. And if you look at Ingram at the end of this play, he actually keeps running another step or two forward before he, and then decides to leap back because
Yeah,
he's trying to get clear of 29. And
yeah,
this is an anticipatory throw that was made well before Ingram was even remotely in position of the end
right.
zone.
So Ingram can definitely adjust his speed to that. Like it's an intuitive thing that receivers can do on those kinds of passes, so that and it still worked out where like you basically leave the defensive back no choice but to run through you if they want to try to stop the play. So
Yeah.
that worked.
Do we
I
get
agree
another?
with you. I'd seen that fades were a real problem for him, but that one looked fine.
It's like the scouting report is get your hands up.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Lays it out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's not shy running the football when he needs to
No.
be.
And now you've got a 14-point lead on Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
God, did you see that horrible sushi restaurant that AJ McCarron's opening?
No.
Asian Asian sushi.
No kidding. Wow.
Cheeto and Nutella rolls apparently.
Oh, well, there you go. Is it located in Alabama?
Yeah,
Well, he'll be all right.
exactly. I was like Cheeto and Nutella roll. Well,
He'll
we
have.
love you.
Then again, I lived in Athens, and Herschel Walker had a restaurant for all of about, oh, I don't know, a year and a half, maybe. I don't know if I may have been giving him too much credit for how long that restaurant actually, but it was like chicken and ribs. Um,
Right.
but
The Vince Young Steakhouse here in Austin is pretty good. Although I think it just has Vince Young's name. I don't think it has anything to do with it.
see, there you go.
We can branch off into the culinary, restaurant reviews. Someone out there should rank the best quarterback or football player restaurants. Mike Ditka,
Yeah, or Don Shula's Steakhouse. Is that one of
Shula.
them?
That's
Yeah.
a good one. Yep, that's good. I mean, you just see on these. What I like about the way that there's almost like a um, the smoothness, almost like a baseball pitcher of the follow through on the pass, and it's true. Whereas I've seen throws, say, from Deshaun Watson, where it's more like he's aiming and he's thinking about it. I think Kelly looks like one of those quarterbacks that he sees it and he lets it fly.
Yeah, this much. All right, so let's see what happens here with this play on 3rd and 1. Gets
Oh,
away from him. Ooh, that was not smart. And
and it goes for a touchdown.
this was the play I remember. Yeah.
Who's that? Is that Cody Core?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it is. So let's. This
That's a
is.
Johnny Manziel kind of play.
This is totally. Yeah. This is. No, no, no. Yes, yes, yes.
Aren't the football gods so fickle?
Yeah. I mean, the idea of him throwing it away would be nice, but not across the field.
No, and not while he's being hit.
Yeah, and thinking that he can, get it to Treadwell like that, but Treadwell sets it, and number eight's going to spike it. So
Now you know that Treadwell would say, "Yeah, he should have thrown that ball," right? Like his
yeah,
teammates would say, "Yeah, I thought he should have thrown it."
I was open.
But let's just say, I mean, yeah, not trying to overspin this to be a positive, but you definitely want to you want to have to rein in a quarterback that's too competitive more than you want to install some nerve in a quarterback who is not competitive enough or is so risk averse that he plays in a shell.
And I'm totally with you there because that's exactly right. Because the way the NFL grades quarterbacks right now, in my opinion, is that they are so risk averse that the guys who fail often fail up. I mean, I hate to say this about Alex Smith because I actually think he's turned into a pretty good quarterback, but I feel like that he's failed up
Yeah.
as opposed to actually advanced at the level
Well,
that you want to
did you
see.
see? Did you see Andy Reid said, "I wish I had him as a rookie." So
Yeah,
I think Andy Reid's acknowledging that.
yeah. The timing could have been better here. It's again another flat ball,
Yeah.
but we're gonna watch. We've got a couple more here in the tank that I think that we can see examples. I've seen a little bit better in 2016 against the likes of Auburn and Georgia, where you see that. Now, okay,
And
so
really, go ahead.
you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, obviously, saving this, like you said, well coached. I mean, just you know, they found a bit of the way to approach him, and it probably is because he's so comfortable in the pocket that it's better instead of trying to flush him from the pocket in that one play we saw to sit back and understand where his throwing lanes are and disrupt those lanes. What is that? 4 or 5 batted balls we've seen now.
Yeah, and this one I think he tried to pump and he fumbled it at the end as he was running, but again, that's a pretty route.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you're looking at, let's see if we got an example here. Yeah, I mean, there's just no hesitation with his footwork. Once his feet are in the ground and once he sees it, the timing, it's gone. There's no little padded extra steps
Yeah.
of like, should I throw it? Should I wait for it to be open a little longer? Not unless there is a reason that he has to wait. Another one where he only puts it where the receiver has a chance.
Yeah, and his all of these throws to the opposite side of the field are just. I mean, you just arm strength is one of those things that you just watch a quarterback, whatever, watch him for half of a game, and you can see that he's got natural arm strength,
Yeah,
and he can generally put the ball where he wants to. And I mean, accuracy is it's not 100%, but the point is that he can. I mean, this is something I saw at times from Deshaun Kaiser that made me wonder why aren't we hearing more about him? Is an NFL quarterback, you have to be able to keep most of the field in play.
yeah, and I like how he looks off the field. I mean, he looks off the left flat before he goes to 15 here. You see it very quickly early on.
Right, and he
Gives
gets that linebacker who drops in coverage just to keep drop straight back and not follow his eyes. Because
yeah,
if he stares that one down, that could be an interception.
yeah. So I mean, you're seeing little nuances of being able to look off a defense, go to that second read. a little bit of a different arm. I thought that was a little bit of a different arm
Right, he
slot.
senses the pressure coming. His body language here, and this is one maybe where his ability to perceive and process these things as he's playing hurts him a little bit because in that case, if he just makes the regular throw, maybe he gets creamed at the end of the play, but it was there.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. I think and that's what happens when you are kind of an intuitive player is you can have a little sensory overload.
Really, he's doing what people want, what the classic NFL, like what you want on college tape is to see a quarterback have to stand in the pocket and engage a defense from the pocket. It's what makes it harder to evaluate some of these guys.
Yeah.
Like he seems like his first plan of attack. One of the columns I have when I'm breaking down quarterbacks is how does he engage the defense? How does he attack the defense? And he would like to just sit back there and throw.
Yeah. I'll pick you apart. That's fine.
You usually don't see college quarterbacks this comfortable in the pocket, like it's where they'd rather be.
Yeah. And you see that he's very comfortable with the tight window throws. That's just kind of an aspect of his game that he feels pretty strong about. You know, he's willing to take the hits, even
Yeah.
if that's not, everything that you want to see there. But
I mean, we've already seen enough to work with that like I said, he's a second or third round quarterback.
yeah,
I mean, just based on what you see to work with here. And um, I think that if he as a third day pick, I mean, how do you lose?
yeah,
I really love the like. I don't know how we would describe this, Matt, but if we could see a quarterback's nerves impulses, you can see that when his eyes make the recognition of what he wants to do, the transfer of energy from thought to the release of the ball is instant and it's very consistent.
yeah,
One of the things this is one of the things that again to just bring up Deshaun Watson, I didn't feel like when I watched Watson the throws were the same. Like you almost like when you watch quarterbacks, sometimes you can almost get hypnotized, right?
yeah,
Because of the way the ball just comes out the same every time, comes out the same every time, and it just tells me that he's a very calm thinker in the pocket.
yeah. The term I kept hearing that I heard was speed of instinct. Just reacting to the speed of instinct, and it's that fat, or as you would say, fast processor. You know, he it's
Whew.
just there. Yeah, what are you gonna do there?
Well, it's 3rd and 17 against Alabama.
Yeah,
He didn't fumble. What are you going to do there? Don't fumble.
yeah. I mean, is
But he
this?
but to the it's like when you have it at this moment, pause this moment. Until this last moment, he wants to engage the defense still. You,
Yeah,
you don't see a body language like he's just going to cover up. And maybe like you do want to see at that point you might want to see like a Tom Brady-esque like just sit down on the ground.
right.
But until that last moment, he wants to stay engaged. He wants to engage the defense and try to make something happen even on 3rd and 17 in his own end.
Yeah. And this is these are some key points here. We're in the fourth quarter now. Alabama's come roaring back. It's a 6 point game. Does he go into a shell? Does he start wetting the bed because Alabama's on his heels? Or is, he going to be able to close out this game? And again, he's able. Look at that play.
Oh. Oh.
And this is what Alabama knows this guy can run. This was a dual threat quarterback
Yeah.
in high school, a big time dual threat quarterback, and to be able to make that play,
Well, and again, it's the calmness.
yeah,
There's no point in his before he makes that throw that they call it back, but
they don't actually. They
so they look at it again
they
and
review it
decide.
again and decide that his back foot's where it needs to be.
But there's so many ways for a quarterback to tip that off. And you aren't even sure whether that's the play as it's drawn up or something that he's decided. I was watching another one of the draft quarterbacks this year made a play like that. I think it was Kaiser, where his body language said, "I'm running,"
Yeah,
and it's a different sort of fake. Um, and not until the last second do you show that, and then it's too late.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow.
All right. So let's see if he wants to stick the dagger in him. Let's see if we can get. He
There it is.
does. Yeah. I mean, it's a little behind, but when you got Treadwell,
Yeah, but
get in
that's
the area.
well, and look, when you can now I might just be like making this up, all right? When you can see the back of the defensive back's jersey, it's like especially when it's a player with a game above the rim like Treadwell, you know he's open. He's
Yeah.
open. It doesn't matter cover like how tight he is.
Yep.
Treadwell is going to see the ball in flight well before the defensive back can adjust, turn, adjust his stride. So all you have to do at that point, it just becomes ball placement,
Yeah. And
and it's
this
there.
is and this is the difference between, this is what Kurt Warner used to say. I had to learn to trust Larry Fitzgerald because there are some plays where, in the NFL you have to just let it go and you have to trust your receiver to do what they're going to do because they're special. And a lot of quarterbacks who don't wind up being top players don't have that trust. Tony Romo had that trust in Des Bryant. You know,
Right.
you look at players like that. They exhibit that trust, and we talk about it as pinpoint accuracy with practicing, and that's all great. Peyton Manning may practice the heck out of that with all these receivers, but the point of the matter is that Peyton Manning also had that intuitive skill to knew that it's time to let it go and let the receiver win it. How many plays did Marvin Harrison make unbelievable grabs on passes that weren't nearly accurate enough in theory, and you can just go to YouTube and you'll find a ton of them.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And obviously in the game situation, like you said, the dagger.
Yeah.
But it's 43-37 again. Jesus. Hey, Alabama.
Yeah, those pesky that they ate their sushi.
Yeah. I want to name when I lose. Well, and I'll tell you, his throws across the field, like again, just the NFL arm strength is there
Yeah.
without a doubt.
And we're running through. Let's see if we run through some of this and see if he can take what he can get.
Here's a key play.
Yep.
I love the transfer of energy. So that was almost a pick.
Yeah.
What happened to Treadwell? Maybe he slipped in the route.
Looks like it, and might have been a little bit behind Treadwell here, or it looks like he was already on the ground. That's hard to tell. Hard to tell.
Well, they get the ball back though. Boy, Ole Miss's defense was doing the job.
Yeah, and we're seeing again, still pretty good. That could burst up the field. And we got a face mask call on him as well. I don't know how likely that is, but let's take a look. Let's take a look at one more game here. And I just want to show you the Georgia game. Now, Georgia doesn't have a great defense, but they are athletic, and there are some nice elements to what they do that I think you'll get to see again. Here's him rolling left and showing a little bit of touchdown field. And I want to show you some things from the pocket from this game that were kind of notable that give you that whole idea of being calm but also being aggressive. Like
Right.
recognizing, wow, I have an opportunity here if I can do that.
Look at that.
Yeah,
I mean, look, the play wasn't successful, but he doesn't. I mean, there's not a point that he. Again, we don't. We want our quarterback to be too courageous. We want him to be too brave.
yeah. And he's not too, I mean, he doesn't make erratic plays when he has an error like that. Again, he makes the first guy miss. He's a little combative. Nice little look off on the set play. But you've got a guy, he's a pocket guy like you said, but at the same time, he's also he's a guy who you can move to the left or the right. He's got the arm on opposite hash throws. He shows some patience on these plays. He's willing to take a hit and know when it's time to just throw the ball away. You got some game management skill here. He doesn't seem stiff about what he's doing at all.
No, no.
These again, you're seeing some of these throws that people may look at and go, "Oh, he's off target on fades." I would say, maybe he throws the ball a little flat in some portions, and then some of these are judgment calls where you look at and go, "Is he throwing the ball away more than he's and only giving the receiver a chance?" Got our double throw here. Let's see. We'll move forward. That's a nice one.
See, I think that if, as long as the throw is, say, 20 yards downfield, he's very comfortable. I think it's that intermediate fade where
Yeah,
he wants to put the ball at a spot, throw it more flat to a spot that just it just doesn't suit him as well.
yeah. I think that
I
makes
don't
sense.
I don't know that he is necessarily going to be a great touch passer um, in the NFL, because I think that it's that thing, like it's the same every time, and he wants to just throw it. He wants to let it go,
Yeah.
as opposed to feather it.
And this might be the best one we've seen of a
Yeah.
intermediate distance right here. And it's also something that can be improved. It's with a little bit more work. This is something that he can get better at, but what you're
You can. Yeah, I just like the ball play. I just like the ball placement that he gives that receiver a chance to win above the rim,
yeah,
and that's a throw again to the opposite side of the field. And while from what he's seeing, the receiver might not look truly open because the cornerback it isn't like he's left him in the dust. He knows that if he puts the ball up high, he can see the back of the cornerback's jersey, that
yeah.
his guy's going to have a chance to win it.
And one of the things about Kelly is we got to understand the scheme that he's playing in. He's got big, tall receivers who might not be great route runners. So you're not seeing a lot of throws in the middle of the field
No,
that are these powered 15, 20, 25-yard digs and things like that you don't see in the college game, but he has the arm to throw. So, his game's not fully expanded either in this offense because of maybe the receivers he has. So you have to keep that in consideration. Now this is a play I think. No, this isn't it, but it's a nice tight window throw into Ingram. It's well covered, but he has the confidence to zip that in there. It's a pretty good window that he was able to fit it into.
yeah, I don't think he's afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah, this is the play.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and he's just such a calm thinker. I just love seeing the body language, that there's just no panic in him at all.
Yeah, I mean, watch this. He knows who he wants to go to here. He shakes that loose very well. And
Steps in
he's
and lets it
yeah, and
go.
he's stepping up like I've got to get this ball out, and he throws this thing from about the 41, about 5 yards deep in the end zone. So we're looking at about a 55,
65
50.
yards.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah. After he just shook somebody off. But the narrative really presents itself pretty quickly watching him, that he doesn't have fear, but he also it doesn't play what would be the what he it's just that calm again.
yeah.
He really, for a college quarterback, plays very calm. His body language, his thinking, and unlike a lot of college quarterbacks where you see success, you don't see a lot of his success coming on preset plays where he just catches the ball and throws the ball. You don't see a lot of his success coming on rhythm throws.
Yep.
You see him engaging the defense.
Yeah. Engaging and reacting, and it's fitting in the cover too.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
and all of these throws are coming in high. I love the fact. I mean, I don't mean too high, but they're
Yeah.
coming in where receivers like to play the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he makes these things look easy, and I think your point about that whole that these aren't preset things. These are things that he's going to have to engage the defense to do are spot on. And that calmness it's important. I mean, look at that. Little pump fake, just slides, resets. Let's fire that ball downfield. And it was, was it in a tight area that maybe that was too aggressive? Maybe, but it's there.
Well, and we don't we're okay with coaching that. We're okay with coaching that out of a player, flattening that out.
Yeah.
But his reactions to pressure are probably ahead of two-thirds of NFL quarterbacks.
Yes.
It's not just that he processes the pressure and loads up a strategy to elude it. It's that once he's done that, he immediately re-engages the defense.
Yeah.
And there's not any back. I mean, how many times? And I know, Matt, this is something that will drive you crazy too. And this is something you mentioned, Rob Griffin III. We see a little of this from him. You don't see him retreating,
No.
mentally or physically. He does not retreat.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you look at something like this, I mean, this is why, when I remember watching him, I go, this guy plays like a 10-year veteran at times.
Exactly. Well, and this is what, and Matt, this is something that we should probably do when we're scouting college quarterbacks. Is just show me a cut of when he has to face an unobstructed rusher, or
Yeah.
when when his running back misses the blitz pickup,
Yeah.
or when the blitz call overloads one side of the field, and basically show me what he does on the plays where his offensive line was defeated, and then he has to operate within that.
Yeah.
And that's something that simulates what it's going to be like in the NFL, or the pocket is tightening in on him really quickly. Because executing plays as they're drawn up is great. That's backup quarterback NFL play, though.
Yep.
What can you do when everything's falling apart around you?
Yeah. And are you predictable at it, or they can throw 8 million different things at you and you somehow find a solution to most of them? And when you
Yeah.
watch with his game, I mean, there's a lot of different things that have been thrown at him in these two games that you don't often see even in one game from a quarterback. You might have to watch 4 or 5 games to see some of the things that he's showing here. And probably not even as good. So I mean, is he a instant franchise quarterback? Probably not. But is he a guy that now he's going to get to sit and learn the tools of the trade and has the pocket presence, the just the comportment of what you're looking for from a player? Absolutely.
And I've got to say, on these intermediate throws, we're seeing really what I would call hyper accuracy, where
Yep.
it's almost like you're leading the receiver into your run after catch mode.
Yep.
Matt Ryan was one of the best I saw at doing that in college, where your throw, if the receiver just naturally follows the ball, it's almost like asking the receiver to turn up field into run after catch mode. I mean, I think from what I can see, he's
I lost you.
oh
There you
back.
are.
Yeah, no, it just that he's extremely accurate. There he is again, putting the ball above the rim.
Yeah. I mean, you got Evan Ingram, and he's just like, okay, let it go.
It's easy, pitch and
Yeah,
catch.
I trust you.
And this is as a home game, and they're doing what they should be doing. Just and let me just step back too. And okay, so if you like Deshaun Watson because he won the national championship, and you like him because how he came through in big moments and things like that, or say we look back at Dak Prescott, we say like, oh, well, we should have known, right?
Right.
Because Dak Prescott elevated Mississippi State. Well, what did Mississippi do in 2015 with Chad Kelly? They
Yeah.
they won he won the Sugar Bowl MVP that year.
Yeah.
He
And
he
and the year before, he was at Last Chance U, And while they've always been a national championship, I think he led them to an undefeated season.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just looking at the stats right now. He threw for 4,000 yards, 4,042 yards, 31 touchdowns against 13 interceptions. Also 10 rushing touchdowns and 500 rushing yards in that 2015 season.
Yeah,
Um, and he took Ole Miss to the Sugar Bowl and was the MVP of the game.
yeah. And they play in the harder division.
Yes. Yes.
They do. I mean, Georgia's is not Georgia. The frustration Georgia fans have is that they don't play in the harder
There's that
division,
play
and
again.
they can't seem to win that division on a
And there's
consistent
that play and
basis.
there's that play again.
Yeah,
I just he's just such a calm thinker on the field.
yeah. He's got that point guard mentality on
Yeah.
top of the fact that he's got a rifle.
I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised that there aren't a few more people that are taking a stand on Kelly as the quarterback could be the key to a team's draft this year.
Yeah, I mean, if it sucks that I'm face you in half my dynasty leagues, but it's
Ah,
like, but you know,
well,
this is it. This is the guy that I'm like, I want him in my late rounds because I mean, even when
so
he's off, these are like
right.
these aren't far off. These are
No.
reasonably accurate.
So well, and maybe like again, like this could be one of those situations where like we've seen a couple of deep accuracy issues, maybe throwing it a little too much. Like the throws that should be easier are the ones where maybe he isn't as circumspect.
Yeah, but he's consistent. He's always a little bit
Right.
far, as opposed to Carson Wentz, who like ask him to throw it, and you don't know whether it's going to be short or long on any
Right.
given play. With Kelly, you might look at this and go, "Well, do they have a receiver in this class who actually runs fast on the field,
Right.
and on this team? I don't know. I mean, Stringfellow's like a Marcus Colston like guy,
Right. Right.
you
And
know."
that wasn't Treadwell's game either. Yeah, I'm really surprised based on what and the thing is too, there's a few things here that the NFL should value, right?
Yeah,
The arm strength, the competitiveness, the winner, uh, um, obviously, more than athletic enough, um, and just the classic like NFL throws that keep the whole field in play and force the defense to defend the whole field.
yeah,
It's there. I'm not sure what kind of these character issues, how much it's dragging him down, but again, when we look at the quarterbacks that have gone in the second and third round historically, last 10 or 15 years, he absolutely belongs in the second, third round quarterback mix.
yeah. I mean, Drew Brees was a second round guy,
Yeah,
and
David Carr, Derek Carr.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this is definitely that guy. I mean, I know it was funny because another guy who we certainly had on this show a number of times is Justice Mosqueda, and I saw Justice last month tweet. He goes, I get what Matt Waldman's seeing about Chad Kelly. I mean, look at the speed he's got.
And these are Georgia defensive backs. This isn't Georgia Southern. I mean, this is
No, this is like this in terms of athletic departments. This is one of the three best athletic departments with Texas and Ohio State.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
get athletes here.
I mean, even if you just look at it in terms of raw materials, I mean, there's more than enough there to want to invest a pick on the second day, and that is before we get to the idea that I think that I think pretty clearly of all the quarterbacks I've watched, he's the calmest thinker.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
he plays in the eye of the storm. I mean, this is what I'm looking for in a quarterback, playing in the eye of the storm, where he's not swayed by emotion or fear of bad outcomes, and it's just on every play. And also, it's that reset, right? It's a
yeah,
reset on every play. Because in the NFL, I don't care how good you are. In the NFL, there are going to be some days they're going to hand your lunch to you. You
yeah.
know,
I mean, on the field, he's kind of, I feel like I want to use '80s reference to movies in this, but he's like Iceman on the field, but he's like Maverick off the field.
yeah.
He, if we're
Right.
gonna use a Top Gun reference for this, the way he plays, and he's got a, the thing is he's got a temper. He got into that fight at the bar outside, and while it didn't look crazy, the fact that he supposedly threatened to go in there and shoot up the bar is a big deal in today's society. Whereas, maybe even 30 years ago, we wouldn't have taken that as seriously, even though we should have. And then you look at the fact that he talked trash to because he assumed he has the bravado that he should be the starter. On the one end, you love that competitiveness, but on the other, it's like when you combine it with that, or jumping out onto the field in his brother's game and nearly getting into a fight with other football players where he was trying to separate, trying to prevent his brother from getting hurt in a fight that broke out. You see those things, and that's the issue. But even the Clemson coaching staff says, look, he's an unbelievably talented player, and he's very competitive, and we love that about him. The issue is that he just needs to mature, and we think he can, and we think he will, and we're glad to see what happened with him in terms of his development at Ole Miss. The other issue is he has ADHD. So Hugh Freeze said that he had to specialize the playbook a little bit with ways that were easier for him to just kind of grasp certain things in terms of number calls and play calls. Um, but again, we've seen that's not a major deal either. I mean, I know that they made a big deal of that about a guy that we liked in the past, Nate Davis. But Nate Davis's issue was more that he just thought he was the best thing in the world and didn't have to work. And I think that Chad Kelly likes to work. He thinks he could be the best thing in the world, and he likes to work, but he has to figure out how to just calm down, off the field, and just like keep to himself, and and not get into the headlines. And I think that you kind of wonder. I mean, I almost kind of wonder. Jim Kelly was kind of a wild child when he was.
Sure, sure. Well, like you have to bring up what would they thought of Brett Favre today?
Oh, well, we know because the same week that they were denigrating Johnny Manziel in the
Right.
media, that CBS, and ESPN was going off on Johnny Manziel. Everyone was talking about what he was doing and how he was doing it and what was so bad about it. And then we look at, you know, Brett Favre. The same week, CBS is bringing up Brett Favre and telling stories about how he was tending bar and how that he was showing up drunk to practice and doing all the things that Manziel was doing. And they're celebrating it in the same week that ESPN is denigrating Manziel. So
Yeah. So, but look, going back to my original comments at the top of this show, this enlightening show, the payoff of hitting on a quarterback that you take outside of the first round is massive, franchise changing. Chad Kelly's shown enough to say there's a non-zero chance he could be that guy in this draft, and this surgery now will allow a team, I think, to get him on the third day. And I think what you do is you bring him in if you're one of these teams, the Giants, the Steelers, the Chargers, the Saints, and you mentioned Drew Brees, and I'd say if you see some qualities, if we're going to compare him to somebody in a best case scenario, it's some of those same qualities because that's what I think of when I think of Drew Brees is that
yeah,
ultimate calm in the pocket and the ability to keep the whole field in play. And no matter what the defense is throwing at him, he wants to counterpunch. He always wants to counterpunch. Sometimes even to his own detriment. He wants to counterpunch. So you draft Kelly in the. I think that you go in with a plan that you want to take him in the fourth round, maybe trade up in the fourth round on the third day to if somebody else is getting this idea, and you tell him in 3 years we want you to be the starting quarterback here. In these next 2 years, we want you to show us you will get with our program and put in the work
yeah,
to get that opportunity. So you dangle the carrot. You know,
yeah.
I
Don't
think that
f this up.
yeah,
Yeah,
this is your chance. And especially and again like Ole Miss. I think the connection to New Orleans is perfect. I think the way that he's showing the arm strength and the mental toughness and faculties to keep the whole field in play is very advanced.
yep,
The only other quarterback that I can think of that I saw, well, I mean, obviously Mahomes has a natural arm talent to do it, but Deshaun Kaiser does it too. But honestly, the same things that I would rate Kaiser highly on, Kelly checks a lot of those boxes, and I think that unlike Kaiser, he seems more in tune. Kaiser can be like the half beat behind.
yes.
So
You have to go back multiple classes to
yeah,
put him in that range of a
yeah,
play. You have to look at Jameis Winston.
yeah,
You know,
yes. That's a good. Jameis Winston's a good comparison too of the playing in the eye of the storm to the point where sometimes it would be to his own detriment, as you pointed out, like lighting the house on fire in the first quarter and then putting it out and saving the day in the fourth quarter. Um, So my eyes have definitely been open to Kelly as a player that if we didn't have these external things with the injuries, injury recovery, and character, that for Davis Webb, like, he should be well. And here's part of the problem, though, Matt. We could take this off into a larger discussion of quarterback
Sure.
scouting. Um, that calm, that pocket presence, is not quantifiable. There's not a measurable that it corresponds to. There's not a statistic really that it corresponds to. It's just watching a player and seeing patterns. And the pattern is that he plays with a very flat emotional demeanor. And that's one of the key indicators for success in the NFL. I'm not saying it means he's going to be a success in the NFL at quarterback, but that's one of the reasons that finding the right quarterback has seemed so elusive at times because, as we talked about on the show, NFL evaluators want things they can easily point at. It's about protecting their
Yeah.
jobs.
There are two axes of the way I look at it is if you try to do it, there's two axes of play. There are there's the creative intuitive axis, and then there is the technical and academic access of playing quarterback. And the problem is that if you're in the NFL, if you're an NFL team, you need all that explainable stuff to be able to cover your ass when it comes to picking a quarterback early. You're going to err on the side of the explainable, which is the academic theoretical process. But every quarterback, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, those two guys, Kurt Warner, guys who ran from the pocket and weren't unbelievably creative in what they did to buy time, and they're the anti Manziel type of player, they still have the intuitive skill with the fast processor to basically skip a number of steps in their game and be creative within the structure of what they do well. So you
Right.
have to have both. The problem is if you don't have both, NFL teams are like, well, which one do we choose? Well, we assume that we'll choose the logical one first because we can maybe if we give them enough logic, somehow intuition will kick in.
You're
But
right. Right.
it's like no, that's not quite how it works. What you need is you need to start with the intuitive and build the logical into it. And the problem is that it's still both. It's still from opposite sides. You're still going to have players who are unbelievably intuitive. Jay Cutler is unbelievably intuitive, but he refuses to respond to logic sometimes. I think on a level that he needs to, and that may be more again a that's the another axis, which is leadership and professionalism and maturity as a person, and you have to have that as well in that. And it doesn't mean off the field. It doesn't mean you need to be a little CEO off the field. It means you need to be a heck of a leader on the field who people respect you on the field. And when Evan Ingram goes, I'd go to war with Chad Kelly. I don't worry about the off-field stuff. I'd go to war with this guy. I think that a lot of players probably felt that way about him, even if he annoyed the heck out of them off the field, or if he did things off the field con, that were to his detriment.
Well, he got them. He got Old Miss to the Sugar Bowl and was the MVP of the game.
I mean, that's certainly a good start. I mean, then again, you could argue about the player that came before him, who wasn't that great of a prospect. But then again, they got blown out by I think it was TCU or Michigan State that year.
Right. Right.
So that. But the thing is he beat Alabama twice.
Yes.
That's another thing too. Alabama fans go, I don't want to see Chad Kelly. That's pretty much you can give me anybody else. They probably would take Deshaun Watson again over
Right.
before seeing Chad Kelly if I were betting.
Yeah. No, this is good. This is good. We have a. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see the organization that is able to see through these risk factors and see the huge potential reward here and the plan and having a
Yeah.
plan for him.
And if you fail, whatever, sixth, seventh round pick, undrafted free agent, fifth round pick even.
Yeah.
Oh well, big deal. Do you say big deal if a team picks Mitch Leidner at Minnesota in the fifth round and he fails, or are you not even
No.
going to remember it?
No, that's why I'm saying early fourth round. I'm saying so if we were in an NFL war room and we were making a plan, so we've sat here and we've identified this.
Yeah.
Okay, then the plan is you take him in the early fourth round. And I say that as I feel very confident that you're going to get him in the early fourth round. Who were some of the other quarterbacks that have gone in the early fourth round? We had 4 years ago, was it Matt Barkley?
Yeah,
Ryan Nassib,
yeah,
uh, um, um, Travis Wilson, right?
right.
Or I mean Travis Wilson. Um, I mean,
Tyler Wilson.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so I mean, these were quarterbacks that came and went with barely a whimper, and nobody said, "Oh, one of the worst picks." You know, when you spend by the time you get to the third day of the draft, if you can develop that quarterback into uh, a backup, that's a win. That's a big win.
Yeah, it's an absolutely one, and he already could be a backup in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
I don't have a doubt in my
I'm not
mind.
worried about that. No, I'm not
Yeah,
worried about
to
that.
me is the question to me isn't whether he can be a backup. The question to me is could he be a Pro Bowl starter in the league?
The team that should a coach. I don't want to, and I know that we've been connecting Mahomes to Arizona a lot, but
But
I would like to see him in Arizona
I'm
or
right there
or
with you.
Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh
Yep,
or Pittsburgh.
I would love to see. I'd love all of that. I would also love to see. I'd also love to see a team that really needs a quarterback like Cleveland to actually say, you know what, let's pick him later.
Exactly. Well,
Let's
do the
take him.
Cousins and Griffin thing, like they take
Yeah,
Trubisky at 12 and take Kelly on the third day. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I would. That would be good. Or just not take a quarterback and get a veteran and get Cutler in there or something and let. But that would
yeah.
be bad. That'd be bad. That might be a bad influence on poor Chad. I don't know. Maybe we.
Well, now that I think about it too, the Texans, simply because you have DeAndre Hopkins who can play all those above the rim balls, and you have Will Fuller who should be fast enough to make up that half step that he's overthrowing those deep balls, and you have a team with a good defense and a running game, so that you're asking him to make plays. You're not putting it all on his shoulders right away.
Yeah.
You're putting him in a position like the position that's the Steelers put Roethlisberger early in his career. I I think that this year you're going to chalk up, but
San
the,
Diego. San Diego could use,
yeah,
could use a guy. I know it wouldn't be what you want ideally as a fantasy owner, but with with Rivers being kind of the coach's son and being kind of an active guy that way, it might not be a bad thing long term. But then Rivers reminds me, maybe the way you're grimacing there also reminds me of the way that Rivers is that guy who he might be 50 and still trying to hang on to a job.
yeah. Well, I will say this. I will say this, and I remember. So I mentioned the Steelers and the early part of Ben Roethlisberger's career. You would be putting Chad Kelly with Ken Wisenhunt if you put him in with the Chargers, which I think is good. I think that you want your quarterback coach or your offensive coordinator, and this is I think a very underrated part of looking back at good decisions in the draft is personality compatibility or something like that.
Yeah,
When you bring the guy into the building and you want the quarterback coach or the offensive coordinator to say, can you get through to him? Do you speak his language? Can you keep his attention and make that connection? So and Roethlisberger obviously is a quarterback who had to be reined in. I mean, early in his career, he was playing. I mean, you just see the personality type, and you see the way that he's comfortable playing football. So there's a lot of good possibilities here. This is going to be fun. It's going to be really fun to see where he
yeah,
lands now
yeah.
because this is a guy that I see a ceiling. I think you've identified it before most people again, Matt. There's a ceiling there in the NFL that isn't really being correctly identified in any of the scouting reports I'm seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bloom, this was always fun. I'm glad
Yeah.
that you were open to us, looking at a player like this, and
Yeah.
I can always count on you for us to look at guys who are a little below the radar or odd ducks but have that special swan quality.
Oh
So
yeah.
we definitely did that today. You can check out Sigmund Bloom's work at Football Guys. His podcast on the couch is fantastic. It's a great intersection between fantasy football and the nuts and bolts of football and the philosophical aspects of the game. You can check out his Bloom 100, which shall be coming out fairly soon. The
Yeah.
pre-draft 100 at Football Guys.
Yeah,
So
it's a beautiful time. This is the time that we like as more than probably we should.
yeah, I would agree. So for Sigmund Bloom, I'm Matt Waldman. You can check out more of these RSP Film Rooms at my YouTube channel, the RSP Film Room, or my blog, www.mattwaldmanrsp.com. See y'all later.